Imagine this. The fastest ocean liner ever built is just sitting at a pier in Philadelphia right now, slowly rusting away. And the speed record it set, back in 1952, has never been broken. Not once, not by anyone. How does that happen? How does a record from over 70 years ago still stand at the top? No upgrades, no challengers, nothing. It sounds almost impossible. And yet, here we are. That's exactly what we're going to find out today. To get our answer, we need to go back in time, to the era of something called the Blue Riband of the Atlantic. And what was it? At its core, it was a ghost race, no official competition, no rule book, just an informal but insanely prestigious title awarded to whichever passenger liner could cross the Atlantic with the highest average speed on a regular commercial voyage. Not a sprint to the finish line, but consistently high speed across the entire journey. That was the key, and no official body stood behind it. Naturally, myths piled up around the thing. People assumed there was some ancient trophy passed from captain to captain. In reality, a physical prize, an actual trophy, didn't even exist until 1935. Everyone talked about speed, but the real stakes were far bigger than that. National prestige, massive government subsidies, and the most powerful advertising money couldn't buy. One phrase sums it up best. This wasn't a race between ships. It was a race between civilizations. So let's dive into the age of the Titans and see how this extraordinary battle of technology and ambition played out. And today we're counting down 10 ships that defined that race, 10 vessels that each in their own way changed what speed even meant on the open ocean. So let's dive in, starting from the beginning. Our story begins in 1838 with a ship called the Great Western. And right away, there's a paradox. She was designed by a railroad genius, Isambard Kingdom Brunel, who simply saw her as an extension of his railway line, only on water. On her very first crossing, she outran her rival, the Sirius, which had to burn its own furniture just to limp across the Atlantic. As for Brunel himself, he missed the whole triumph. A fire broke out before departure. He fell down a ladder, and he watched his ship's victory from a hospital bed. But wood is wood. No matter how fast the ship, there's a ceiling. A new era was coming, the age of iron, and it announced itself dramatically. January 1856, two ships pushing through ice. One, the American Pacific wooden, the other, the brand new British Persia made of iron. The Pacific vanished without a trace. The Persia struck an iceberg, took a gash to her hull, and still made port. That settled it. Iron had proven itself. The Pacific was never found. No wreckage, no survivors, no explanation. She simply disappeared into the North Atlantic and took her secrets with her. The Persia sailed on, and the age of wood was over. Ships got tougher, but what good is a tough ship if your single propeller snaps in the middle of the ocean? That was the reality back then. One shaft, one screw. It breaks, you drift. Enter the city of Paris with a beautifully simple solution. 2 propellers, 2 independent engines. One goes down, fine. Sail home on the other. From that moment on, crossing the Atlantic stopped being a lottery. For a long time, the British ruled the Atlantic. Then Germany entered the picture, and it was personal. In 1889, Kaiser Wilhelm II visited a British liner. He was so impressed, he told his staff, "We need ships like that." His answer was the Kaiser Wilhelm der Grosse. And here's the interesting part, she had 4 funnels. Did she need all 4? Not really, but it was marketing. 4 funnels screamed, "I am big, I am powerful, and I am safe." A new language of prestige. Drunk on success, the Germans went further. In 1900 came Deutschland. She took the record, but everyone hated her. Imagine sailing on the world's fastest liner and being unable to sleep because the vibration was so violent that dishes flew off the tables. They called her the cocktail shaker. The wealthy avoided her entirely. The fastest ship on Earth turned out to be a commercial disaster. The British watched all this German success with something less than admiration. Their response needed to be crushing, and it was. Her name was Mauretania, and what happened next was genuinely extraordinary. Mauretania took the Blue Riband and held it for 22 years. Just think about that, 1907 to 1929. In those days, records lasted 3 or 4 years, tops. She held it for a generation. Her secret? Technology borrowed straight from warships, steam turbines. It was such a leap in speed and reliability that the rest of the world needed more than 2 decades just to catch up. Who finally knocked her off the throne? Germany, rising from the ashes of the First World War. In 1929, their new liner, Bremen, broke Mauretania's record. This wasn't just a speed record, it was a statement. German industry was back. But Bremen is remembered for more than speed. In 1935, while docked in New York, a group of anti-fascist protesters stormed aboard, ripped down the Nazi swastika flag, and threw it into the harbor. The diplomatic fallout was explosive. It made one thing clear. This race for prestige had become part of something much larger and much uglier. As for Bremen, she never survived the war. In 1941, a crew member set fire to her in port. She burned to the waterline. Then, in 1935, France crashed the party, the Normandie. This was no ordinary ship. She was a floating palace in the Art Deco style, the pinnacle of elegance. And remarkably, her revolutionary hull design, which gave her speed while burning less fuel, was the work of a Russian emigre engineer named Vladimir Yurkovich. But the story of this masterpiece is tragic. In 1942, during the war, workers in New York Harbor began hastily converting her into a troop transport. A spark from a welder landed on a pile of life jackets. Fire broke out. Firefighters pumped so much water into her trying to extinguish the blaze that Normandie lost stability, listed slowly, and capsized right there at the pier. There's a legend that her creator, Vladimir Yurkovich, stood on the shore and wept as the work of his life sank before his eyes. She was never rebuilt. In 1946, what remained of Normandy was sold for scrap. And the British? Their answer to French elegance was characteristically pragmatic. The Queen Mary. No Art Deco excess, just speed, power, and reliability. She took the Blue Riband from Normandy and became a symbol of the unshakable British Empire. But even this queen had a dark chapter. During the war, she was painted gray and earned the nickname the Gray Ghost. One crossing, a rogue wave struck her. She rolled to 52 degrees, 3 more degrees, and she would have capsized. And another time, traveling at full speed, she accidentally rammed her own destroyer escort HMS Curaçao. The order was to never stop. Queen Mary didn't. She left 338 men behind in freezing water. But even British power wasn't the final word. The last and loudest was spoken by America. 1952, United States is launched. And to understand this ship, you need to understand the man who built her, William Francis Gibbs. This man was consumed by a single obsession: to build the fastest and safest ship in history. His fixation went so far that there was almost no wood on board. Almost none. The one exception was a piano, and reportedly even that was built from a special non-combustible mahogany. The result, an absolute monster of a vessel. She was nearly half the weight of the Queen Mary, but her engines were twice as powerful. In plain terms, aircraft carrier power fitted into a passenger liner's hull. And she looked the part too. Sleek, aggressive, almost threatening. One look at her and you knew this ship wasn't built for comfort. It was built to win. July 1952, first crossing. She casually demolished the speed record in both directions. Picture it, crossing the Atlantic in 3 days, 10 hours and 40 minutes. And her true top speed remains officially classified to this day, a military secret. And today, she's sitting at a pier in Philadelphia, rusted. No museum, no restoration, no buyer. The fastest ship ever built, slowly falling apart. And here's where the circle closes and we return to where we began. Why does a record from the middle of the 20th century still stand? The answer is actually simple and a little melancholy. United States' record hasn't been broken not because we couldn't build something faster. Of course we could. It's because there's simply no reason to anymore. Jet planes arrived, and overnight the entire race for the Blue Riband became irrelevant, which leaves us with an open question. Have we lost the ability to build something truly great just for the sake of greatness itself? Or have our priorities simply changed? Thanks for joining us on this journey. If you enjoyed it, hit like and subscribe. It really does make a difference.